Good morning. I'm Dr. Bill White again. I'm a general dentist, of course, and I'm, I've been doing exclusive orthodontics for the last 42 years and have had quite a bit of experience in it. Prior to that, we also do a lot of temporomandibular joint stuff that's mixed in with orthodontics. You can't really separate it. And I'm going to talk this morning to you about some wire bending things, and I use these methods in my own practice. And if you're interested in doing it and kind of want to follow the path that we've worked out most of the bugs in, well, you're welcome to do so. And I'm going to show some things that we do here in our own practice to really try to finish the orthodontic cases out as good as we possibly can. And to do that, you've got to bend the wire. You just can't buy a wire, just stick it in there. It's got to be really worked out. And so I'm going to try to show you a good bit of that this morning. And this is difficult to learn for a lot of people, so we'll just try to think about this, and I'll just be talking to you individually, just one person at a time, and trying to show you exactly what we do here in this type of work. So let's go ahead and look at this Omega Forming Plier. This actually was a plier that was made to form clasps a good many years ago. It used to put these clasps around teeth, in between teeth, something like that, and you'd have these clasps that fit out there. They were made with this particular plier. All right, I took this plier and figured out how you could make the Omega with it much easier than it was to actually make it by hand. Now, Omega is nothing but a Greek letter for something like that, and we put that on the end of an archwire and lean it forward like this and come around so that we tie the archwire back on the Omega, so we can take the archwire in and out and use it and not have to cinch the back end, and you have to cut that off to take it out. So we'll try to show you exactly how we do this. We put the piece of wire in here originally, and we mark where we want this Omega to be, and you'll just mash this down, and this will come out something like this. Then you turn it sideways and put it over here in this leaning part, and it'll bend the thing sideways, or you tilt it forward. Actually, your archwire is going like this, your Omega will go this way, you see, so you can tie an archwire back with tie back wire right in here. Now let's see, this is the plier from the side, and these were really well made. They came out of Germany, I believe, and we got other people started making them for us, and they were made for class, but now they're just known as an Omega Forming Plier. So I'll show you how we take it. There it is again, and there's another picture. I've got enough pictures of it in here. And people hold their pliers different ways. I have one young lady that came in right out of high school, really, and she was left-handed, and she could bend wire. She could just a natural instinct in bending it, and they can learn how to do these arch wires. And if you do your orthodontics properly, you've got to have some help that really know how to make the arch wires. And so you are constantly training ladies to do that, or not necessarily ladies, men too, but I found that I could train some real talented ladies after they got their kids up in school a little bit, where they could come in and work during the day. Well, they made excellent assistants and could learn how to bend wire. At least most of them could. Now, we gave them a little wire bending test before we ever hired anybody, just to see if they had any talent in bending wire, and if they could just really get with it, even though they had not been trained, they could make different shapes and stuff in the wire. And that's one way to pick out ones that are kind of gifted in that area to start with. Now, there are a lot of, I've taught dentists for years and years now, and there are some dentists that are just gifted in that area, and there are some that are maybe very, very smart people, but they just had difficulty in forming the pliers and the wire that fit in the mouth. Now, I'm going to try to show you in a whole series of these exactly how we bend this wire in our practice, and how we train the ladies to do that. So here's the plier, in the way a left-handed lady holds it. The right hand would be the other way. You hold it where you can open it and close it without undoing or taking it out of your hand. You can just open it and close it by how you pinch it together. You open it with this finger and close it with these over here, and you hold it with this right here. So this is just the way I've done this stuff. All right, here we take an arch wire. Now, I'm going to later show you how to take a piece of beeswax. Actually, let me go back on that again. You take a piece of beeswax. Whoops, we've lost our little marking point here, and I'll have to get it back. That's what we draw with, and you can buy, and I'll show you later, making the wax pattern. We've got a video on that, and this cuts in, and you cut these things in half, and then you put this in the mouth and press it up against the teeth, and the teeth have the brackets on them, and it'll come out with a imprint of the bracket on the wax pattern, and you lay your wire on there, and the wire goes out the back more like that. It's longer than the deal, so don't worry. Now, you mark the center, and you're going to go back to that center every time, and then your first bend usually be a cuspid eminence, and we mark where that's going to be, and we come in and bend that, which uses very little wire. Just be something like a little out bend, just very slight out bend. I'll show that to you on typodonts as we go along. And let me see, now we erase all of this. Well, first, then you bend that, and that uses up a little bit of the wire back here in the back on that thing. Now you come back to the molar, and you're going to make a molar offset usually, and bend the wire out at the molar, just not quite that, just slightly. We'll show you that later too. Or if you bend any kind of a loop or something in between, then that uses the tail end of this. So you go back to your center every time, mark where you're going to do it, bend whatever loop you're going to bend, and that uses the tail end of the wire. So when you get through the end down here around the molar, we're going to put these omegas in it, and that uses another little bit of the wire, and then you can put it in and clip the back of the wire off even. So here is an Archwire, and this is a excuse me, my favorite plier that we worked with a lot. Now this is a tool steel insert right here, and that is hard metal. And we had these pliers that went down to a 1/4 millimeter. Say a millimeter like that. The tips of these pliers are just a 1/4 millimeter at the tip, and we do a fine bending of the wire with those pliers. I like those. Yes, a lot of people use a tweed, just a little narrow plier like that. I really like these best. I could get right at the point right here and do some hard bending of the rectangular wire. We finish everything in a 17-5 wire, which would be a 17-5. In other words, it's 17 like a thousandth, and it comes out till it's 17 in this form, and comes out as 25 thousandths in this horizontal dimension. And that's the size wire we nearly finish everything. Now I use 0.18 or 18 thousandths slots in my brackets. Come out like this. And this is 18 thousandths. I use a 17 thousandth wire, which allows you a little slop in here. Now for every thousandths difference in here, you lose about 4 degrees of torque. So your wire needs to be pretty close to fitting, and these bracket slots are made slightly more than 0.18. That'd be 0.18. They're just a little bit more than that, so you can put an 0.18 wire into this bracket right here. So we'll go on to something else. This is going to get kind of drawn out with me explaining every little thing here. But anyway, we take an Archwire like that, and we bent the end up. If you want to torque it, you go out here and bend this end up, and then you can reach back in here between the two wires and hold one of them steady, and then bend this one down. You see, and it'll twist this wire, and this little tail end will come up like that, and you know you've got that much torque in it. Or you can grip it here and it'll raise this end up like that, and you can tell how much torque you put in the wire itself. Alright, back to the omega. Now we have marked on our wax pattern where we want this omega to be. So we put it on here with a little wax mark. And if you lay that mark right here on that plier, and now you clamp that together, this mark will slide over, and it'll be over here when this is a loop coming down like that in this wire. It's going to be using up this end of the wire. It's easy to do that. Now usually this would be wrapped around the other side if you have the arch already made. Now it's hard to really learn this, and I hope that by just listening to it, and we just think of I'm sitting here talking to you, and how you can learn how to do this. Now we're going to clamp this wire, this plier too, and this is going to go down. This wire will slide in, and this one will slide in, and this part right here will come over to there. And so this omega is going to be right by the mark you put right there, and that works out that way. Now here I go. Now the plier you raise up, when you start in here, this mark went from here, it reared up and went over here, and now we'll go ahead and clamp it down there, and then you bend this back out here, this out here, and this point there will be right. So if you mark that mark just behind the bicuspid bracket, it'll come out just behind the bicuspid bracket. Now let's go ahead. There we go, all the way to. Now there's our mark. So it went from here right to there. Now we're going to take it out. You ought to kind of level that, because this is thicker than the wire. Level this out right in here. And we're going to take it and lay it in this trough right here. And then when you clamp it together, it's going to bend this in this direction. You'll have a omega that's tilted forward in the arch. So now you can tie back into the little groove on the omega. Now some of you will look at this and say, oh my God, I can't ever learn that, but you can if you just do it. Now once you get to where you do it, and you do many of these young ladies, they would bend hundreds of these arch wires. They could bend one while you're thinking about it, you know. And you've got to have helpers that can do this kind of stuff. Okay, we erase those little lines and go to the plier. Okay, we take it out of there, and now we're going to put it in this angled part right across here. It's not in there yet, but just showing you that. Now the next, now there it is. Now when this is cut off right here, you see, so this thing will end up over like this, and now that'll be the front portion of the plier. I spoke in San Diego years and years ago, and to the San Diego Dental Department on preventive and interceptive orthodontics, and there were a lot of orthodontists came to that, and they weren't too interested in what I said or what I was doing, but they all wanted to know about this plier right there. They had never seen that, and how we use this plier that was made for making these little clasps you'd reach around a tooth, and have these things would fit in underneath the edge of the tooth to hold the appliance in. But anyway, now they're sold for omega forming pliers. Alright, now watch us squeeze this together. Now we're coming up on the place. Even though we got a lot of slack in here, we're going to push this over, and that's open. Now that'll move together. Alright, pushed it in like that, and you have to pull this down a little bit to level this out. Now our omega is coming out, and you can't bend one of these by hand half as efficient as you can with one of these. I mean, you can't even make one that small and tedious and clamp it together like that, but they work great. And so we'll go from there. We use those on virtually all of our arch wires, and they can be taken in and out and adjusted and everything, put right back in and tightened up. Alright, now there the omega is, and this would go in the molar tube back here, and of course the thing's cut off, so you take a tie back wire and hook it back here, then you come under this and up over here, and you put a director. It's a little instrument that has a V in it, and you push it in there, and you can push on this arch wire real hard and pull on this and twist this wire up, and you'll see that on most all of these arch wires if you look at them close. And there it is. Now this is the arch wire is going around like that. Now if I were sitting here talking to you individually, you could ask me some questions in there. So I'm trying to answer as many of these questions as possible, and I'm sure that people that really know how to do this and have done it, they're bored to death. Well, you just go on to some of the portion of this. We're going to try to put this out where people can sit down and just, these videos are neat. You can go back and listen to it, go back again and listen. You can sit there and see it over and over till you get to where you can do it or whatever. So that's what we're trying to get orthodontic knowledge to as many people as we possibly can to do real good jam up orthodontics. Now I can take this system that we have and do darn near anything that's possible to do with teeth in orthodontics, and you can too if you just learn it. Now some of you, it'll be very difficult and you might not want to get into this field, but others will be able to do it very good. Alright, let's see. Now we take that omega, and frequently your molar will be sitting in here something like that, and your bicuspid, which is right up here beside it, might be a little shorter than the molar, and your bracket distance from here to here, your arch wire needs to, it comes in, it'd be here, and then we make a molar offset and come out like that, so that the arch wire fits the molar, and it'll keep the molar in here, see? And this is the bicuspid right in this area. Now if a bicuspid is real broad, well, maybe you don't need this, but then it may be even smaller here and you need more of it. Well, nobody can bend you the dadgum arch wire and know what the difference in the size of the molar and the bicuspid is, see? So you have to learn how to put a molar offset in your arch wire, and that's what we're going to be doing here. Now we clamp the mesial part of this. The omega is in the part that's going to go here. It'll be, the omega will be in here. So you clasp the mesial ear of this. This is going around in that direction. And now we're going to bend it like that, and then we'll come over here and clasp it again and straighten it out, and this omega will be off to the side. Now I could say that to you and you could hear it, but you can see it here, and you can have it go over it and over it till you know it. I'm talking to people who have not done this kind of stuff. Now, okay, we're going to take the arch wire, we clasp that mesial part and bend this over here. So here this is the part that's going to go in the molar. Here is the part that's going to be on the bicuspid. Alright, we bent this. and the omega is still sitting here. So we're going to put our plier right in this part right there, and now straighten that back out here. It's not difficult, and you look like, well, it'll take you a while to bend the first ones, but after you do it 50 times or so, you'll be able to make those in your sleep almost. Now here we go. Now we grab it over here and we're going to bend it that direction. Now we straighten that back out. By the way, you bend it with your finger and you hold the plier. So here's the omega standing here, bent over here, and now it's coming around that way. And this will fit into the bicuspid. It'll fit into the bicuspid here, and this part right here will be into the molar will be back in here, of course, and this tube is the molar, something like that. All right, now there it is, bent. All right, we come through here. This is where the molar tube is, and this is the bicuspid bracket. It's going to be fitting in here somewhere. And this, you can slide this in real easy. Come in here. Now, every once in a while, this omega sticking up here, and it leans back, and we're going to put our tie back here. This omega may bump into the gum, like you may have a molar on some young child, and the gum tissue should be way out like this, and you put this, and this omega will stick them in the gum tissue there. So you're going to bend this omega out this direction, but leave the rest of it in there so that the omega would be out from the gum tissue here. So I'll show you how we do that. In the first place, we would grasp this here, and now we're going to bend this omega buccally in that direction. That will twist this wire here, then we'll have a kind of a buccal root torque in it. So now we've got to come back and catch this, hold the omega here and catch the wire, bend that out to level that wire back out again with that. It's not difficult if you just watch it and you know what to do and where you put your pliers. Alright, here we're bending. We're going to rotate this part up, out this way, see? That'll make this omega come out this way, like that. Now we've bent that and torqued that thing out. Well, that leaves torque in the tail end of your archwire, which you may want or you may not want. So you're going to reduce the torque or bring it back, or say you wanted it just absolutely flat like the rest of the wire here, then you will have to come back and take that out. So now we glass the omega and we catch the wire here and we flatten it out. So the wire would have this torque on it like that, and you bend it to straighten it back so it's leveled out with the same. You want the torque. If you look at this wire carefully, you see this side, and you see the other side in there. You see this side here, but this one is downhill. In other words, it's facing kind of like that. So we're going to grab it there and straighten it up so it's the same as this right here, unless you wanted some buccal root torque on that too. Some of you are going to look at this and say, God, I'll never be able to do that. But if you just hang in there, you can do it. Now I'm going to level that thing back out again. And then when you finish one, you go over and do the other side. See, it's right like that. Alright, now if I leave this wire sticking up right here, you see this omega comes right here and tilts out this direction, comes back, but I'll take the torque out of it. Back here, did the same thing. So when you slide this into the molar tube, and the bicuspid's right here, and then your first bi would be here, and your cuspid, and you go back to the center every time you bend one of those. And we don't need this. We cut it off. We'll put the wire back into the arch wire. That's just a simple molar omega set there in front of the molar, tilt it out so it doesn't irritate the gum tissue on a young person. Now, an older person, they've got a lot of room, clinical crown is bigger, and so that doesn't bother them. Alright, we fit this back onto the typodon. Now, can you see the molars are sitting out here, and the bicuspid is this thick, and the molars are somewhere like that. They're broader in this dimension right here. So we want them lined up so that the molar edges are lined right up with the bicuspids, coming right around like this. We want to keep those incisal edges right in line when we're doing that. Now this, I don't see a cuspid eminence here, but you see this lateral bracket is not in the wire as much as a cuspid bracket. See, cuspids are thicker than laterals. On some people they're a lot thicker, and other people they're not so thick, so they never can make the brackets actually fit the wire perfectly unless you had, say, 10 sets of brackets for every tooth, which is ridiculous. There's one guy tried that. I went out to California and took his course, and it was just you'd have so much inventory on stuff you couldn't already keep up with it for heck. So it didn't go. So there this wire is in the mouth, and it will fit, except I would come back here. That is the arch wire that we bent, and this is a wax pattern that we put it on to mark it. And that's was the end of the arch, the video. Maybe I can cut this end off and and get the interference out of the way. But you get the idea about the omegas and how to make them and how to fold them out to the outside, and it's pretty complicated in a way, but after you learn it you can usually do it. So thank you for listening, and hope you learn that, and you can learn how to bend the omegas anyway and get those pliers. Thank you very much, and I'm going to close up here and stop this.